Okay, welcome to Pittsburgh Postgame once again on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Matt Gajtka, hosting solo. Once again, the Penguins beat the Panthers 4-2 from FLA Live Arena, I believe is what the building's called. Either way, it's in Sunrise, Florida. You know it was on the road as the Penguins win their seventh in a row, season-high 7-game winning streak, matching and surpassing the 5-game winning streak they had just a couple of weeks ago. So, needless to say, this is one of the hottest teams and becoming quickly one of the best teams in the NHL, at least in terms of the standings. Still in second place in the Metro, a few points behind the New Jersey Devils, but they're making a move in a big way and winning tonight despite the absence of a couple of key contributors so far this season. Before we get started on tonight's commentary and hopefully a little give and take with you on the live chat here on YouTube, I want to remind you to like and subscribe here to Pittsburgh Sports Live. Also sign up for the notifications so you know when we're going live with our post-game shows, whether it be Steelers, Penguins, University of Pittsburgh, also West Virginia University as we head into basketball season here too. It's all at Pittsburgh Sports Live, our post-game shows, in addition to other types of video content. Even the boys at North Shore 9 are still cranking out the baseball videos here in the off season, and God bless them for that. More of a hockey guy myself, especially this time of the year. And the Penguins just keep doing it, right? Looking back to the middle of November now, they are, 12-1-1 since a 5-2 loss to Toronto. That one, remember the early bad line change for Crosby's line, and Austin Matthews scores 15 seconds in. Ever since that game, they're 12-1-1. Go back a little bit further, that 3-2 loss to Seattle on home ice at PPG Paints when Brandon Tanev, of all people, scored the late game winner. They're 14-2-2 since then. They can't really be called the hottest team in the NHL right now because the Bruins and the Maple Leafs have both been fantastic lately. Actually, the Bruins have been fantastic all season long. I think they still just have the 3 regulation losses and not one on home ice yet. So Bruins definitely the best team in the East, definitely the best team in the NHL. By record, the Leafs are up there for sure. The Devils had that long winning streak end a couple of weeks ago, but they've pretty much maintained their level. So 4 teams in the East, really, that have been almost unstoppable since, say, Halloween or so. And for the Penguins, a little bit later than that. But not even halfway through this NHL season. Still a long way to go, obviously. But look where they're at. Look where the Penguins are at. Just 4 weeks ago, we were talking about, will they finally miss the playoffs? Is this the year? Is everything collapsing around the big 3? Is Mike Sullivan losing control of this team? Does he have their attention anymore? Well, all those things have stopped being said for a long time now. That's what happens when you get the results, and the Penguins have come by those results honestly. Tonight, maybe a little bit outplayed by the Panthers in the middle portion of that game. Second period, Tristan Jarry kept them both in it and then kept them ahead in the latter stages of that second period. And then the Penguins played a pretty controlled game in the third. And even when they weren't exactly shutting down the Panthers, they were still getting chances. They got multiple odd-man rushes. They scored their first goal of the game on a shorthanded 2-on-1. Brian Rust to Chris Letang. That tied the score and set the Penguins on their way, at least offensively. They scored 2 more power play goals as well. That's now 7 straight games in which they've scored at least 1 power play goal. No coincidence that they've rattled off all these wins in a row when the power play is doing something, because they were already generating plenty of offense at 5-on-5 and treading water for a little bit there. Yes, they had the 5-game win streak, but then a couple of losses in a row prior to this current win streak. And here they are. The power play starts scoring, and they really get it rolling. And despite scoring just a couple of goals the last time out against Dallas, they get right back on the horse. They get 3 goals before the empty net situation here tonight, and an impressive win at the Panthers, starting this mini 2-game southern swing. I suppose it's the NHL. There's not going to be a long southern swing. There's no more Atlanta, and I wouldn't call anything like Dallas necessarily the South. So if you're going to go south and you're the Penguins, you're going to play Florida, you're going to play Carolina. That's the trip basically every year. Sometimes Tampa Bay's mixed in with this one, but just the Panthers and the Hurricanes. The Canes coming up on Sunday, by the way, 5 o'clock game, 5 o'clock start. So mark that one down on your calendars. Should be another great test for the Pens, who are being tested right now. After the home against Buffalo, which no disrespect to the Sabres, but they're not quite at the level of a playoff team yet. The Penguins beat Dallas in the last minute on a Malkin goal. They beat Florida here tonight. Then they'll have Carolina, New York next Tuesday at home, the Rangers, that is. Carolina again in the final game before the Christmas break. And then the surging Islanders, the improved Islanders over last year before the new year. So a stretch of 5 games here against contenders, for sure, in the Eastern Conference. And the Penguins start that stretch off with I would call it a convincing win in the end. They double up the Panthers with a Jake Gensel empty netter. Gensel scores twice. Evgeny Malkin, in some news, well, there is no news on him as of right now. I haven't heard from Mike Sullivan yet. Haven't seen any transcriptions of his post-game press conference. But Malkin drilled above the knee with a Sidney Crosby slap shot in a third-period power play. The puck deflects in. Malkin gets the goal. Goals in 2 in a row for Gino, who had been struggling to find the back of the net despite some pretty strong play. So he continues that little mini streak, but who knows if he'll be able to play on Sunday in Raleigh. And where it hit him, I don't think it's going to cause any major damage. Like I said on Twitter, a slap shot's not going to break a femur unless you're point blank with it, basically, and Malkin was not. So looking at a deep bruise, but that could be a cause to sit out a game or two, that's for sure. Even in this sport that obviously values playing through pain, playing through injuries. Not the time of the year you want to do that necessarily. So wouldn't blame Malkin if he decides to sit it out, but I don't want to also rule him out for Sunday. Got a couple of days to recover, and like I said, I doubt any structural damage. Probably just hit him between the top of the shin pad, above the knee, and below the pants. So there is usually a soft spot right there, unless you're totally armored up, like a shot blocker of yesteryear, like a Guy Carbonneau, if you will, for some of you guys who've been watching hockey for a while. Walt Flanagan says, hello. Evening, Matt. This team confuses me, but at least they're winning. Well, I think early in the year I was confused because, number one, I thought that for times last year and in recent seasons, they've had long stretches where the power play has been very good. We have not seen a stretch like we saw early in this season where the power play was that bad. I think they were at 1.6 for 62 or something like that. That's under a 10% conversion rate over a stretch of 20 games or so. That's incredibly bad for a team with this type of talent, a team with this kind of chemistry and longevity playing together. That never made any sense. So this makes more sense. And isn't it fun to watch them work the puck around, pass it quickly? They don't have to all be incisive, scoring chance creating passes. But if you keep moving the puck around, you force the penalty killers to react. You force the goaltender to react. And also, I think it loosens you up as a team when everyone's getting a touch there. And I think it allows you to play on your instincts, as Mike Sullivan likes to say a lot, and I'll repeat him there. I think when you are working quickly, that unlocks the right side, the creative side of your brain, as opposed to the analytical left side of your brain, which can cause some paralysis by analysis for sure if you're out there stick handling too much, holding onto it too much. The puck moves faster than the man. I don't care how fast you are, and the Penguins are reaping the results of that, I think, and also some good luck tonight with 2 shots from the outside. The Malkin point shot in the second period, banking in off Jake Gensel's skate. Skill play by Gensel, but there's some luck involved there. Went right underneath of a would-be shot blocker for the Panthers, too. And then Crosby's shot, as I mentioned, banging into the net behind Bobrovsky off of Malkin's knee. That one a little more lucky, but as Bob Airy alluded to on the broadcast, I think he's right. Players are shooting a little bit off the net these days to avoid the shot block, first and foremost, but also they realize my guy at the side of the net can knock that down and put it in pretty quickly. Players are that skilled with their feet these days, maybe not with their knees in Malkin's case. Hate to laugh, but well, sometimes you laugh to keep from crying, and I hope that's the case for Malkin right now down in South Florida. This is Pittsburgh Postgame. The Penguins win it 4-2. They are quickly climbing the Eastern Conference standings. Chris Letang's shorthanded goal, by the way, put him first place all time in Penguins history. He now has 5. Pretty one tonight, going to the net, read and react type of stuff, and good stuff from Letang. His first goal since coming back from the stroke, by the way. My first show since he's been back from the stroke. So just want to tip my cap to him again. But Letang now with 5 career shorthanded goals as they alluded to on the broadcast on AT&T Sportsnet. That's one ahead of Larry Murphy and Randy Carlyle, two, I would say, Hall of Fame caliber defensemen. And Letang is most likely going to join them one day. The Penguins now at 17-8-4. They're 8-5-2 away. They've ripped off 9 in a row unbeaten on the road, which ties a franchise record. So now we're getting into the time of the season where the Penguins threaten some records, break some records maybe. It's been a fun little stretch here. Malkin's 1,000th game mixed in with that as well. And we see the benefits of bringing back the gang, bringing the band back, and keeping the band together. Not that it's guaranteed to finish on a happy note, but you have these emotional payoffs as a fan, right? Whether it's Letang coming back from yet another stroke, whether it's Malkin persevering through a knee injury last year and getting to his 1,000th game, whether it's Sidney Crosby racking up a couple more assists, getting to 40 points on the year, 40 points in just 30 games played. So basically right at his career clip, if not a little bit higher when it comes to points per game. Sib now has 17 goals and 23 assists. And you know what? Jake Gensel qualifies as a guy that we have that emotional connection to, right? A couple of Stanley Cups with him, actually one Stanley Cup with him, just the second of those back-to-back cups last decade were with Jake Gensel in tow. But at any rate, Gensel scoring twice tonight. Another empty netter. I don't have numbers on that, but that's got to be, 4 or 5 this year at least out of his 15, which now ranks him second on the team only to Sidney Crosby. Looking at the deeper numbers on tonight's game as the Penguins battled the Panthers. The Panthers have not been as good this year in creating scoring opportunities and finishing opportunities. Still a potent team, but not quite as good. And also, the Penguins were fortunate that Matt Tkachuk was not available for Florida. He was their big trade get, of course, as they dealt Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, the up-and-coming defenseman, to Calgary for Matthew Tkachuk. Tkachuk was out due to a non-COVID illness, according to the Panthers radio broadcast, which I was catching a little bit on the road this evening. It's funny how we have to make note of that, but not a COVID situation. Regardless, Tkachuk out. So that hurt the Panthers' cause. And Alexander Barkov still working his way back from an illness. And the Panthers broadcasters were noting that it looked like his conditioning was coming back, but maybe he's not at full capacity, not firing on all cylinders. Expected goals tonight, all situations. The Penguins had a big edge there, 4.89. All those 2-on-1s add up, I suppose. They end up with 39 shots on goal, 58 shot attempts for the Penguins. That's one more than the Panthers, who actually had a sizable lead in that category for a lot of the night, but the Penguins pushed back. Pittsburgh and Florida almost matching each other in high danger chances, according to Natural Stat Trick. 18 for the Panthers and 17 for the Penguins. Just looking at 5-on-5, the Panthers had 17 high danger chances. The Penguins had 11. So the power play, as it's supposed to do, you don't apologize if the power play makes a difference. You don't get any bonus points for winning without a contribution from the power play, to put it a different way. So there's no shame in that. That's a part of the play. Special teams are, of course, massive. You have a higher leverage in those situations, even though there aren't as many power plays in the NHL as there used to be. Power plays are clicking at an increased rate, so it's the case around the league. The Penguins do kill off a couple more power plays tonight en route to the victory. The penalty kill has been pretty much exactly as you would hope it would be almost all season long. So it's in the top 5 in the NHL. They hold the Panthers off the score sheet on the power play this evening. Ryan Lomberg scored an even-strength goal in the first period for Florida to put them ahead. Sam Reinhart scored on a cross-ice pass from Carter Verhaeghe midway through the third to make it 3-2 Pittsburgh. But Tristan Jarry was, I would say, above average to at times spectacular tonight too. So Jarry also, you see special teams, you see goaltending, you see your stars playing well and contributing. It's not a complicated formula, but sometimes it's hard to squeeze blood out of that stone when things aren't going very well. But the Penguins are on a roll here. Jeff Petrie and Jason Zucker both out due to injuries. Both guys didn't look to be injured the last time they played. Jeff Petrie, we thought he was hurt a couple of games ago as he got hit in the right hand, I believe it was, and left the game. But then after the game, I think it was 2 games ago. Yes, it was. He said that he was okay. That was the game against Buffalo at home this past Saturday. But then he didn't play against Dallas on Monday and out again today. He's looking like a week-to-week situation. He's on the injured reserve, in fact, so he can't come back until after the new year. That's going to be several games from now. I think the first game he can come back for is January 5th at Vegas, which quick scan tells me is 8 games from now, so he'll miss a minimum of 10. Will Petrie, who I thought was just finding his stride, perhaps due to the increased playing time when Letang was out, and Jason Zucker, who's been playing like the player that the Penguins thought they were getting 3 seasons ago, but injuries again crop up for him. He left the game against the Stars, I believe it was late in the second period, then came back, and now he's out with what I think has been termed a lower body injury, but he's been termed week to week by Mike Sullivan. That's the important part there. And so Drew O'Connor recalled from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and that'll give a hit to the Penguins' depth. But fortunately, they've run off some wins here, and I don't want to say they have a huge cushion in the playoff chase, but things are looking a lot better than they were. Like I said, it was dire. I don't mean to overstate it, but we were getting close to that old checkpoint of American Thanksgiving, and the Penguins were out of a playoff spot. But here they are now in second place in the Metro suddenly and climbing. They, well, good luck trying to stop them right now, even if you are the Carolina Hurricanes. But this upcoming game on Sunday, I think, should be a real test for them. The Canes have made them look bad. They make a lot of teams look bad. It's not just the Penguins, but in particular, it seems like the way the Canes play, they keep it very simple. They don't give the Penguins a lot in terms of odd man rushes, in terms of extended zone time. The Canes chip it out, chip it in, and they play a very intense style of hockey. And I think a team like the Panthers might want to trade some chances with you occasionally. They might want to give you some openings because they're going to try to push and open up the game. But the Hurricanes are definitely more disciplined in that category. The Canes are playing tonight. By the way, they're playing the Kraken at home. Let's see here. And Carolina has won that game 3-2. Excuse me. So both the Pens and the Canes have 44 points. The Devils are on 40, or pardon me, they both have 40 points. The Devils are on 44 points. That's the first place spot in the Metro. And the Boston Bruins lead the entire Eastern Conference at 48 points. So that's where the Penguins stand right now. 8 behind the conference leader, 4 behind the division leader. How about that? The Flyers beat the Devils tonight. So the Devils are cooling off a little bit here. They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. That is very cool compared to where they were 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in fact, that is 4 straight losses, some overtime losses mixed in, but 4 straight defeats overall for the Devils, who are second in the league in goal differential too. So it's been a legit New Jersey team, but the Pens won't see them for a little bit yet. Really interesting schedule here. They don't see the Devils until the 30th of this month at home, and they don't play them for a second time until almost the All-Star break. So maybe catching the Devils at the right time a little bit later in this season. My name is Matt Gajtka. This is Pittsburgh Postgame on Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can chime in, whether it be on Twitter or right here on the live feed. We're about 20 minutes into the broadcast. I usually like to go about 30 minutes. And so, well, I have some other thoughts for you as well from not just tonight's game, but also on some league news overall. Let's go to that league news, in fact, right now, as there was a report that came out. I think Sportico had it, of all places, an exclusive that said that the NHL Board of Governors, they met this past week. They are considering a switch back. They just switched from this. Now they're going to switch back to a more division-heavy schedule. I don't know if this is like travel cost considerations or something like that. If so, that's rinky-dink. I just don't want the NHL to act like a regional league here. Personally, this is me. I only get excited to play the Flyers consistently. I don't get excited to see the Islanders or the Hurricanes. Well, I do get excited to see the Hurricanes because they're actually good and it's a good test. But you know what I mean. I guess it's the Capitals and the Flyers that I get juiced up about the Penguins playing, regardless of what their records are. Outside of that, maybe even the Capitals are kind of falling off now. Maybe it's just the Flyers, regardless of how bad they are. There will always be that good, honest dislike toward Philadelphia. But I don't know if hockey fans are as much about rivalries as NHL brass thinks they are. I want to see other teams. I want to see stars. I want to see in this era of increased scoring. I want to see some of these guys who are filling the net in the other divisions, in the other conference. I like the way it is right now, where you play every team twice, home and away, and then you mix in some more games in your conference and a couple more games per team in your division. I think that's perfect, actually. To go back to something like an 8-game slate against each divisional opponent, that's ridiculous. That's so many games against the same teams, and it just gets old after a while. The regular season should be about variety. The playoffs are about nailing down rivalries and that sort of thing. Gary Bettman is just obsessed with this rivalry deal. That's why he made this divisional playoff format, which also stinks, by the way. So don't switch in the regular season, too. If you're going to switch in the regular season, then at least give us a 1-8 bracket like it used to be in each conference, not the division brackets where you might see the same team over and over and over again, and you don't get what you deserve for your accomplishments in the regular season. So I wish the NHL would realize that the N stands for national. Act like a national league. This is not a minor league, although you would be fooled into thinking so by some of the ways that the NHL goes about its business. So that's my take on the only real bit of news, I think, that came out of the Board of Governors meeting. Gary Bettman also shot down any kind of expanded playoff. I wouldn't mind a little play-in tournament like the NBA has instituted the last 3 years. I think it has been, where 7, 8, 9, and 10 all battle for those final 2 spots. Because for me, if you're in the 7th place position in your conference, you're not that good. You don't deserve automatic entry. You don't deserve anything. So I don't have a problem with making the 7th place team playing the winner of the 9-10 game. A little extra juice before the playoffs among teams that are basically borderline. And I don't want to say it, but almost always pretty close to the same type of caliber of teams. It's very rare you have what you got in the Eastern Conference last year when the top 8 seeds were almost completely settled with about a month to go, if not more, in the regular season last year. This is typically a nip-and-tuck type of league with the way that points are handed out. As long as you're just given 2 points for a regulation win, the standings are going to be this constricted. And, of course, giving the points for overtime and shootout losses as well. It's always going to be the case where 7 through 10 is pretty much a similar quality of team. So I don't have a problem with that sort of thing. Maybe extending the playoff races for some teams that are a little bit out of it. For me, that's good for business. That's good for entertainment. But I also do agree with Bettman in one way, where I feel like the 4 rounds of playoffs is pretty solid. And the way it is right now, if you had a little play-in tournament, you wouldn't even have to call it the playoffs if you didn't want to. It could be like what we had in the COVID bubble, although make it shorter, not 5-game series. Make it 1-game elimination scenarios there if you want to do a little mini play-in tourney. Like I said, look up the NBA and the way they do it. I think that's a pretty decent way to split the baby when it comes to this sort of thing. You're never going to please everybody, but that's how I feel on that one. Penguins hoping not to have to worry about any kind of play-in situation this season. Of course, that would not happen, but hoping to avoid any kind of serious playoff chase. As of right now, they're 8 points up on the first team out of the playoffs, which would be the Detroit Red Wings and the Florida Panthers, by the way. So the Panthers and the Wings, they are in 8th and 9th place, respectively. As of right now, there'd be 5 teams making it from the Metro. Actually, those 2 teams are 10th and 11th place, because the Rangers would be a wild card team out of the Metro, and the Islanders would be a wild card team out of the Metro if the season ended today. It doesn't, but if it did, that's where they would be. Then the Capitals are in 9th place at 34 points, one behind the Islanders, and then comes the Red Wings and the Panthers. So the Panthers got to get on their horse. They've scored plenty of goals, but given up plenty of goals. And honestly, I'm not sure how the Panthers did it last year. It felt a little fluky. Not that they made the playoffs, but that they were that good, that they racked up that many wins. And you look at how they relied on overtime and in some ways the shootout. It was probably some smoke and mirrors for Florida. They were more like a 105-point team that ended up with, 120 points or something like that. They're not that good. They changed coaches. I wasn't sure about that either, because Paul Maurice has never really shown an ability to lift the team to a new level. He talked about trying to make sure they can grind out wins. Well, maybe that's not the kind of team they are. Maybe they're a high-scoring team that needs to just try to outscore you. And maybe the acquisition of Matthew Tkachuk was a good one, but at the same time, you are losing 2 players for that one. So the Panthers made some intriguing moves, I'll put it that way, somewhat eyebrow-raising from this angle. And as of right now, on the outside looking in, by 3 points, in fact, more than a third, getting close to a half of the way through the NHL's regular season. Any other surprises in the NHL for you? I know the Seattle Kraken are friskier than we thought they would be. They're now in third place in the Pacific, but I'm glad to see they're more competitive, and glad to see them pumping in some goals too. That's how you sell hockey in a market, is make it entertaining. And even if you are around 500, then at least be the type of team that makes you want to get down there to the arena, get down there to Climate Pledge, and check them out in person or watch it on TV. Because a team that just tries to lock it down, I don't think that sells in today's crowded entertainment market. This Pittsburgh postgame on Pittsburgh Sports Live, like I mentioned, like and subscribe. I'll be doing these shows with increased frequency. My name is Matt Gajtka. You see my Twitter handle right there. Also on Facebook at Matt Gajtka Media. So a couple of different ways you can access me and say hello. If Twitter goes away, if Twitter blows up like a defective Tesla in the near future, then I will remain on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. I'm trying to do a little more on there, but including share some clips from this channel. But I'm not so sold on Instagram. It's just like I'm a language guy. That's what I studied in school. That's what I've always liked more than anything. Pretty graphics, pretty photos. That's all well and good. But for the most part, I'm a guy who likes words. That's why I've always been attracted to Twitter, and I hope that it doesn't go away. I hope that we get through some of these concerns and hiccups, and I hope I don't get suspended for no good reason, which apparently has happened to a few people tonight. All right, next game, like I said, is Sunday at 5 against Carolina. And I don't think I'll be able to have a post-game show for you there. But just looking ahead down the line on the schedule for possible Pittsburgh post-games, definitely next Tuesday against New York, that would be a possibility. And next Thursday against Carolina, the final game before the holiday break and the trade freeze and the player movement freeze and all that. One last look here at the live chat. Steeler Nation 412 says hello. What is the longest winning streak in Penn's history, he asks. Well, my good friend, you've come to the right place because I know that offhand. The Penguins won 17 games in a row. That is the NHL record, and they did that in the 1992-93 season. That was Mario's comeback from cancer treatment in that latter stage of the 92-93 season. The Penguins won the President's Trophy, still the only time they've won the President's Trophy for best record in the regular season. And, of course, they went on to lose in the second round to the Islanders in their drive for 3 cups in a row. But that season wasn't a total loss for the reasons I just laid out there. And that 17 wins in a row has not been seriously challenged in a while. I believe the Capitals had 15 in a row maybe 10 years ago, if that sounds right. The Devils were at 12 or 13. I started to get concerned. Whenever anyone gets over 12, I guess, I start to get defensive of that record, even though I was too young to even remember it. I wasn't really a hockey fan until about age 10, which makes it 95, 96, somewhere in that range where I first experienced a Penguins game. So 17 is the record. It's held by the Pens. I'm very proud of that record, and I hope it continues to be in the possession of the Penguins. So they are still 10 short of matching that. Yeah, it was impressive. And also, Steeler Nation 412 says, who do you think looks the most overrated in our division? I'm thinking the Rangers. I thought the Rangers were overrated last year, and the Penguins outplayed them in the playoffs and still lost to them. So I guess there was some egg on my face there, but not really, because I didn't feel like they played great systematic hockey. I don't think Gerard Gallant's that great of a coach. I think he's all right. But I don't know if the Rangers, if they're not getting a 30% power play conversion rate and they're not getting a .930 save percentage from their goalie, I'm not sure there's that bedrock there that can hold them up. Really, I think the Devils might be cooling. Well, I know they are cooling off, but they're not as good as they showed early in the season. There were some analysts out there, some guys who go deep into the numbers, like Don Lucian of The Athletic, who had the Devils as a definite playoff team and maybe even a top of the division team, and here they are. So full credit to him. But I don't think they're this good. So we could be seeing some regression at some point to the mean for them, I would imagine, or else they're going to finish with 130 points and set the NHL record. So I think the Devils are a little bit over their skis. I wouldn't say overrated. I think the Hurricanes are pretty properly rated. That's a solid squad year in and year out. They pretty much bring back the same team. They add Max Pacioretty at some point, assuming he gets healthy. So I might go with the Rangers on that one. The Islanders are trying to sneak up on people again this year after a season out of the playoffs. And then the Capitals are on the way down. But I think everyone knows that, so they're not overrated. The Flyers, we knew they would stink. The Blue Jackets, we had a pretty good feeling that they were going to be bad, maybe not this bad. So the Jackets might be a little bit underrated at this point, in fact. So, yeah, I'd go the Devils at this point. I'm not sure I'd pick them to win the division. I still think it might be the Hurricanes or, heck, even the Penguins. Why not, right, with the way they're playing. But I do have to give credit to New Jersey. And a coach in Lindy Ruff who many thought the game had passed by, maybe not so much anymore. Some good talent there in New Jersey. They play an entertaining brand of hockey, and that's what I'm happy to see. These are not the Devils of 10, 15, 20, or even 25 and going on 30 years ago when they first made their push. Slowed down the NHL to a level that so many teams copycatted it. And eventually, we fell into the dead puck era. We're out of that right now. And, the Devils, symbolically, are rising out of that in this era. They're rising out of their previous reputation. And, at least looking like a squad that you might want to switch to on your ESPN Plus account or your NHL Center Ice or NHL TV. TV is not a thing anymore. I think Center Ice is still a thing on satellite, but you know what I mean. All right, thanks for the comments there, Steelers Nation 412. That's great. Rooting for the Steelers this weekend against the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, speaking of Carolina, we've got a double Carolina weekend here. Double Carolina Sunday, I believe, right? Don't the Steelers play on Sunday? I'm pretty sure they do. Let's go for that sweep of Tobacco Road. Is Charlotte on Tobacco Road? I don't think so, but we'll go for the sweep of North Carolina regardless. On Sunday. So I'll talk to you next time on Pittsburgh Postgame. Keep an eye on our social accounts, my social account, like I said, at Matt Gajtka, for any updates on when we're going to go back on with another Penguins postgame. And I'm going to hit the hay and get ready for a Friday. Have a great weekend, everyone. Great to talk to you on Pittsburgh Sports Live.